appear in your warrant. I am hopefully that you've picked up from the front when you walked in. There's a statement from our acting town administrator, Peter Moore, about how the town was able to pull together and resolve the issues that we had last April regarding getting the South Shore VOTEC coverage, covered financially, as well as a number of errata that are indicative of how what was moved in order to cover that money and other small line items that it needed to have some adjustments. So the errata has a lot of information on there. Those are the changes that were made to the budget in order to make all this work. I won't be getting into that in any detail unless somebody has a question along the way. Once we get into budgets, which will be the capital budgets as well as the general fund budgets, we're going to do what we usually do. I will start reading individual line items, and then if nobody questions them, we'll just keep going along. If somebody questions an article, I will make a note about it, and then we'll come back and visit it at the end. When we get through running through the first time, we will vote on the articles and put those to bed, the ones that were not questioned, and then deal with each of the questions items individually. And at the end, we'll vote the total budget with any adjustments that have to be made along the way. So doing a little bit of our usual opening ceremony stuff, make sure that you realize where the exits are. They may not necessarily be the doors through which you entered. Can everybody hear me okay? Is that working out all right? Good? You can never tell with this. Non-resident seating is in the back left. I have a list of non-resident personnel. There's Dave Henning, who's in the front here, with Attorney Galvin. Shayla Tron with MCM. We have Liz Anoya with the Conservation Department. Sean Patterson with DPW. Michael DeMeo is the Harbor Master. Jay McGillis is IT. Sean Strobel is the Treasurer. Meg LeMay is our Accountant. Sean Leary is with MCM. Michael McDonough is Captain of the Police Department. And we have Peter Morin, who's our Town Administrator. So all those in favor of allowing those people to remain, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes. I'm going to give you kind of a who's who up front here. I am Jim Fitzgerald. I am your moderator. Grayson Pelletier has once again graciously offered to be my assistant moderator and is running the clock. Boy, is he excited to be at town meeting. It's just great to see. So, are you going to come? And he says, oh, you betcha. Town council is next to me, the town clerk, town accountant, the town administrator, the select board, and in front of me is the advisory board. So those are the parties up here. Typically when we do town meeting, we have a color guard and we have an anthem, but this evening we are only going to do the pledge since we've already had our opening ceremonies. And for this, we're getting a reprise role from Jason Lucetti. He did such a great job last time, we figured we'd bring him back. Jason was born and raised in Brockton, Mass. Before he decided to enlist in the United States Marine Corps. He headed to Parris Island in 1992 and upon graduation went to Field Artillery School in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. While on active duty, Officer Lucetti participated in Operation AMIO in 1994. He was honorably discharged as a corporal in 1996, but continued to serve in the United States Marine Corps for 2 years as a military police officer. In 1998, he joined the Marshfield Police Department, where he continues to serve in our community today. Officer Lucetti, who currently serves as the town safety officer, resides in Marshfield. He is married to his wife, Jenny Ann, and they have 4 wonderful children, Ryan, Devin, and twin girls, Liliana and Gabriella. Thank you for your continued service, Officer Lucetti.
Thank you. If everybody would please rise for the national anthem. Or pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, do a couple of procedural things. First of all, how many of you are familiar with open town meeting? Raise your hand. How many are new? I think we've got all veterans here now. Please shut off your cell phones. It's very disruptive in the middle of the meeting to have a cell phone go off. All discussions happen from a microphone. There's no shouting out from the floor. So if you want to have a discussion, get to one of the mics, get in line. And all the discussion goes through me to the presenter, and the presenter then can answer your question, but you need to ask through me. Voting is always by a show of hands. We don't shout out. If you think that my count was in error, and I will say very seldom is it ever in error because I'm pretty careful about that stuff, but I could make a mistake. If 7 voters stand, we can go to a standing count. And at that point in time, your counters will go and count you individually, and then you'd sit down and yeas and nays go, and then we have an actual count of who's here. So the counters for your section are as follows. If you can please stand or wave or make some statement so we know who you are. In this front area, it's Nerese Casper, our town clerk. Section A is Anne Marie Sinnott. Section B is Barbara Carney. Section C is Anne Marie Sacchetti. Section D is Jeb Deloche. And Section E is Andy Wenning. So those are the people who are going to be counting you. Make sure that you've been counted, that they have counted, that they have indicated that you can sit down, and then you can go on from there. So, as our usual meeting, I'm going to forego reading the rules. They're in the front of your warrant. I would highlight Rules 7, 9, 11, and 14. You can move the question. If debate has gone on for an extended period of time on a particular article and you think that it's time that we can go to a vote, you can go to a microphone. You've got to be in line, and move the question. If I agree with you that moving the question means that the question goes to immediate vote. We have no more discussion. That's all there is. If I agree with you and I accept your motion to move the question, that's what we do. We go to a vote. Or I could say that, no, I believe there's more discussion to be had, in which case we let the discussion continue a little bit longer. But you need to be in line at a microphone. It can't be called up from the audience. A vote to accept the rules. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes. At this point in time, the chairman of the select board, Eric Kelly, would like to make a statement.
Thank you, Jim. I don't know. I know there's a lot of interest in the playgrounds in town. So there's a meeting lined up this week. There was some confusion in regards to scheduling at town hall. One of the boards needed to use the select board. So I just want to inform everybody that Diane Jordan's going to be heading up a meeting at the DPW building at 965 Plain Street this Wednesday, June 4th at 6 o'clock. And the select board is going to hold a meeting next Wednesday, June 11th at 6 p.m. So just to let everybody know. Thank you.
Point of order. The meeting this Wednesday is at 5 o'clock at the DPW building?
5, thank you.
That's correct. 5 at the DPW building, Eric?
5 o'clock. That's DPW, right?
Okay. Okay. We're going to go first into our special town meeting. We have 2 articles in the special, Articles 2 and Article 6. And then in the annual, which we will close the special and start the annual, we have Articles 2 3, 4, and 7 on the annual. So the motion on Article 2 is the Select Board moves that the town vote to amend the Marshfield Town Code Division 2 General Bylaws, Chapters 188-11, Positions, Classes, and Compensation Schedules by deleting the existing Schedule A, General Government Positions, and Schedule B, Part-Time and Seasonal Positions, and by adding a new Schedule A, General Government Positions, and Schedule B, Part-Time and Seasonal Positions as set forth in Article 2 of the April 28th, 2025 Special Town Meeting warrant. I will say that this was the same, there are no changes to this particular article. We just decided that all of the financial articles were going to come out, so there's no changes in this particular article. Mr. Moran.
Is this mic working? Okay. This is a standard article that is annually on every town meeting warrant. Purpose is to provide for the salaries of various positions and the ranges for various positions, including part-time seasonal positions and inspectors and so forth. Purpose of this article in particular is to remove the position of intermittent police patrol officer while adding the position of mental health clinician, which was previously funded through a grant, and to add the position of procurement officer to Schedule A. Both the mental health clinician and the procurement officer will be added to Schedule A. Cost of living adjustments to the salaries of council on aging and recreation department part-time seasonal positions and wiring and plumbing inspectors are included in Schedule B. And I believe they reflect ranges of pay in most of them. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. From the advisory board, Mr. Smith.
The advisory board is in support of Article 2 as proposed. The addition of a procurement officer to the team at Town Hall will ensure discipline in our purchasing processes and also allows us to maximize the effectiveness of our position as a negotiating entity. So said more simply, it means that we're going to have someone who wakes up every single day and they focus exclusively on how to make sure that our town is getting a good deal. This article also ensures that the mental health clinician role at the Marshfield Police Department is maintained and becomes a full-time role. It addresses the challenges of mental health related public safety calls through trained experts, which we know is an effective policing tool and ensures the safety and well-being of our residents as well as our economic stability. Thank you.
Okay. Going to go to discussion from the floor. This is a majority vote when it comes. Are we? Oh, I'm sorry. Did he want to do? Okay. Oh, I did do the motion. Yeah. Okay. Rear microphone.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. A few questions. What is the swap between the intermittent patrol officer and the mental health clinician? Is it an equal swap?
I couldn't hear you clearly. If you could say that again, I'm not sure what you...
What is the comparison between the cost of the intermittent patrol officer and the mental health clinician? Is it a dollar for dollar? Because you're removing the intermittent officer.
Yep.
And you're bringing in the mental health clinician full-time. Is it the same amount?
The chief's right behind you.
Apparently, there's a mistake in the writing of that. We're not looking to remove the permanent intermittent police officers because we still have some left. So it would be adding the mental health clinicians. So I don't know if I need to make an amendment to
Yes.
restore that.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd ask to make an amendment to restore the permanent intermittent police officer in this motion.
Okay.
And to answer his question, the salary is different. It's not a dollars for dollars. And the funding, we hope, from the mental health clinician will come from the opioid settlement money.
Okay. So we have an amendment on the floor to add back in the permanent intermittent police officer into the personnel bylaw. And that's a legal motion. We're going to have discussion on the motion. Any discussion on the motion itself? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All of those opposed, I declare that that passes. So now we have an amended motion. Ms. Pasevich?
So do we have to, excuse me, just to continue, so do we have to specify the funding for that?
No.
Okay. The next question I had was, first with a comment, there's reference to the old Schedule B and the old Schedule A and the new A and the new B. Could somebody tell me what the overall change, or what is the budget impact of these changes?
Okay, does anybody have an answer to what is the difference between the new and the old Schedule A and the Schedule B? I don't know what it is. I'm not sure that anybody has that information. Is it financial or? It's a 2% cost of living increase.
So, for example, the highlighted items in here, the yellow highlighted items, are those the items that are getting an increase? Or are they each and every one, from beach attendant down to shellfish warden, all getting a 2% increase?
Okay, on the upper, in Schedule A, those are reclassifications, so the class numbers changed. When you go into Schedule B, which is the seasonal and the part-time, that's where the salary changed.
Does the salary change for the Schedule A employees?
Well, it changes because their classification changes, which would give them a pay bump.
Again, I just, there's nothing in here to indicate to me what the overall impact is to the budget, because a 2% increase on a beach supervisor, you know, it would probably be like $18.50, and it's, you know, there's very lack of detail here with no we can't compare the new tables to the old tables to know what the actual budget impact is and where the actual increases are when you're changing the step or the level of the employee. Like, I don't know if the office manager went from a 10 to a 13 or a 12 to a 13.
Yep, I get you.
You know, there's nothing there. How can I vote for this?
Rear microphone.
Pam Keith, Smoke Hill Ridge. In regards to the procurement officer, can I ask, has the state given us guidance on this or told us to do this? Or is this something that we've decided to do on our own?
Okay. Do you have an answer on that, Peter?
I can answer the question. There hasn't been direct state guidance that I've received on it, but it is common for communities of this size and smaller to have procurement officers employed to do contract administration and to basically make sure there's uniformity in contracts and procurement, and there's compliance with state laws. So I can tell you that in my brief time here, there is a strong need for uniformity in procurement, particularly if, you know, in the use of the new software that has been adopted. If you're going to make full use of it and have it efficient, it's appropriate that procurement processes be updated as well. I've seen, quite frankly, a red stamp used here that I used to see in the 80s that you fill in. It's not efficient. I can understand that adopting new processes is perceived to be time-consuming by folks that do procurement. However, if we add this position, it'll assist everyone in complying with the state regulations and statutes as far as procurement and make everybody more efficient.
So can I ask to then, Does it cover the DPW? Is it
I think
every department?
I think it would assist everyone in procuring, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Your microphone.
Martin Clary, 38 Ellis Avenue, Marshfield, Wrexham District. I don't know if this, Mr. Moderator, if this applies to, it's to do with the beach supervisor trying to get work done on the Winslow pathway that leads down to the beach. It's critical that there's an overgrowth that's extreme hazardous condition. The ruts, tripping people and sprained ankles, and I hate to see anything happen as far as injuries towards the hospitalization towards the town. Beach supervisor is trying to get the help to get down there and get all that work trimmed out. I realized there was a storm last week. I understand that, but way before that, there was all from time to time, they seem to be clearing it and they dead stopped. We have to have that, especially coming up now. That should have been done by Memorial Day, but we should have that all set up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's beyond the scope of this article, but your point was well taken. Mr. Kelly.
Sorry, Kelly, Peterson Path. This is the one thing I've been thinking about in regards to the procurement officer and the need for it, especially in light of future budgets that we're going to have to deal with. It is, to my understanding, that especially as we're looking for a new town administrator, that I can't see why this can't be part of their job responsibility. So I'm looking to do an amendment. I would like to take the procurement officer off this list.
Okay, so your amendment is to remove the procurement officer from the personnel schedule.
That would be correct.
Okay. So we're going to vote, we have discussion on the amendment, and then we'll take a vote on it. So anybody who wanting discussion on the amendment, please get to a microphone.
Dominic DeSantis.
I can't hear you.
Dominic DeSantis, 899 Old Main Street Extension. I have a question about procurement officers. Does the town administrator know if any other towns around here have this position?
Mr. Moore?
Yes, they do.
Could you give some examples?
Braintree, Norwell, pretty much everywhere I've worked. Holbrook has someone who does this. It's not unusual to have it in this size. It's a function that's important, and it saves money in the long run to have it rather than if you get, quite frankly, if you get audited by the Inspector General, you're going to spend more money on lawyers than this position. You don't want to go through that. I've gone through that in another community.
Thank you.
You talking about the amendment?
No, actually. Sorry.
Question, David Qualter, Old Oakleaf Drive. If removing this position from this schedule, does that prohibit the town from employing any position if the position is removed from the schedule?
It wouldn't exist.
So you could not hire it if it was removed from this schedule?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Amendment?
Joe Pasevich on the amendment. But procurement officers, that duty has been assumed by who in the past?
Town administrator.
Okay, and the other towns, are they all separate procurement officers, or do other towns have their town administrators or other officers act
I
as
think Mr.
procurement?
Moore said the ones that he listed, they all had a separate procurement officer.
I didn't hear the word separate.
Pardon me?
I can clarify that, Mr.
Okay.
Moderator. The administrative work would be performed by the procurement manager, okay? Ultimately, the town administrator in each of those would have responsibility for supervising and overseeing procurement. So yes, there'd be, I would sign off on all procurement contracts as well as the procurement person. would, as well as the town accountant to ensure that there were funds, as well as the town administrator, or excuse me, the town council to make sure that it was appropriate as to form. So I would say, in my opinion, based on having worked in 5 towns in the last year and over 40 years in this business, that the amount of procurement that goes on in this community warrants this position. If it didn't, I would say that.
Well, it sounds like you've got at least 3 or 4 other people in the loop when it comes to soliciting and executing contracts.
Yes, they're performing separate functions, though. One's looking at the legal form of the contract. One's looking to see that there are appropriate funds. They're not doing the administration of the procurement. They're not putting out the advertisement requesting for proposals or responses. They're not opening the bids and making sure that the bids are in compliance with the advertisements and comply also with prevailing wage and all the divisional labor standards contracts. This is a complex job. It's not just, and it can, I think it warrants, again, the workload warrants the position.
It reminds me of a toy I saw when I was a little child called Six Finger. And the ad was, how did I ever get along with 5? And it seems to me like there's really no need for this. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. This will be a majority vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hands. All those opposed? I declare that that amendment fails. So we're back to discussing the main motion.
Diane Jordan, Bancroft Street. So I'm trying to remember from the advisory board meetings back in the spring. What is the salary for the procurement officer? Can anybody tell me?
No. Has there been a salary set?
The range is between 90 and 102,000.
Okay. And maybe this is an advisory board question. By the way, thank you. I seem to remember that the position salary was explained by the treasurer said that a position had been vacated and not filled, and they were drawing that salary for this position. So does the advisory board remember that conversation?
Mr. Smith?
Because you had specifically asked that question, and that was the answer.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I do remember that we had some discussion about where the funding specifically was coming from, and there was, I'm trying to dig back in my memory bank, so you'll have to forgive me, but I do remember there was some discussion about positions that hadn't been filled and how that was funding, but I don't remember the specifics on it.
So it was in the accounting department or the treasurer's department, but they never said what the position was that they were drawing that salary from.
Okay.
They just said that there was a position. So
Th-
they never
this-
got an answer about what salary, they were taking for this position.
I'll phrase it this way, just to try to short circuit this, is we're adding a new position. We aren't removing a position to make room for it.
No, I understand.
So in this year, that may have been some, I don't remember that discussion either, and I was at, I think, all of those meetings. But in general, in a future year, even if money were being appropriated this year from, or being earmarked from a different position and going into this, both of those positions would exist and both would be able to be funded.
So maybe that Mr. Strobel can answer the question because it was Mr. Strobel that's made that statement. So what position was vacated that you were recommending the salary come from for this position at the advisory board meeting, the first long one, I think it was?
Mrs. Strobel?
Yep, so the former revenue manager's position, that is the position that's no longer funded.
Okay. So what was not discussed was that Mr. Strobel took the procurement duties and got a raise based on that vacated position salary. So there was not a $100,000 position open, salary position open. It was about half of that, but they didn't give that information to the advisory board. So I'm just pointing this out because that's
Okay.
not okay. I am in favor of a procurement officer because it will make things easier for particularly the DPW engineers, but I don't appreciate the leaving out of information with half of a $100,000 salary.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Point of order.
Yeah, sure.
The revenue manager did not have procurement responsibilities. The responsibilities that I have assumed have to do with reconciliation of financial accounts. It had nothing to do, zero to do with procurement.
I understand, I didn't say that. I said that when you took those procurement duties on, the explanation was, or the raise was based on the fact that a position had been vacated and $100,000 was available.
Again, the
Right,
position
this-
was a revenue manager's position. It had nothing to do with procurement.
I never said it
Yeah,
did.
we're done. I think
Okay.
this
Well, I think
is-
people understand my point, but thank you.
I think we're fine, because this is creating a position, it's not dealing with the funding of the position. All right, so seeing no further comment on Article 2, this is a majority vote. All those in favor of Article 2 as amended, including the permanent intermittent police officers, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that article passes. Article 6, the Select Board moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $3,820,517.49 to pay for the cost of items listed in the chart set forth in Article 6 of the April 28th, 2025 special town meeting warrant, and to meet said appropriation, transfer said sum from free cash. Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I will be brief. There is a memo that I prepared that was out front. I'll just briefly describe it. The amendments that are being offered to Article 6 are to allow for the funding in the annual budget of the South Shore Vocational Technical School. And the proposed adjustments to the article would be to remove Section 6.6, the vaccine deficit. It can be funded through CARES Act instead of through free cash. The item 6.8, the police accreditation for $284,000 was inadvertently included in Article 6 and can be reallocated to the South Shore Voc Tech budget with no impact to services. The request in 6.7 for Munis software contract funding, the amount that was put in was in anticipation of what the obligation would be. This was back in December. Subsequently, the amount has been reduced to $340,000, and the lower amount will meet the town's contractual obligations. The funding under 613 for OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, I am recommending or requesting that the amount be reduced from $200,000 to $50,000. The reason for this is Marshfield is still adding to the OPEB trust, which is a fortunate position to be in where many communities are not, quite frankly. Having seen presentations in other communities by the municipal auditing companies and rating agencies, the primary concern is that pension obligations are met. If you look at the pension obligation as articulated in the annual town meeting Article 3, it now makes up approximately double what the general government budget is. It's grown to $10 million this year. Auditors and rating agencies are aware of that, and they're also aware that most municipalities are planning to fund OPEB through pour-over once pension obligations are met. Therefore, they're not going to look badly on the fact that we're reducing the appropriation of OPEB. It's still going to be looked at favorably that you're addressing it at all. Security camera server replacement, it is currently the plan to fund this through CARES Act money that is available. If it's not available, we'll find another funding source at a later date, but I am told that it is available. 616, the library Sunday hours. At the time that the request was put in, there wasn't certainty that there would be adequate funding for Sunday hours. We are now into the month of June in fiscal year 2025. There is adequate funding to secure Sunday hours at the library through the end of the fiscal year. 618, there was a vehicle lease program. The goal of the program is laudable, but it's worth exploring whether we could do this on our own through combis without a middleman or a third party administrating the contract. It particularly could be something that a procurement officer could administer on their as part of their duties, since it is procurement related. So those are the amendments to Article 6 that I am requesting. I hope that town meeting will adopt them. I'm happy to answer any questions about them.
Okay. Mr. Smith from the Advisory Board.
After careful review of this article with town management, the advisory board is in support of the article as proposed. The article makes due on commitments made by town meeting through special articles, in addition to other needed funding and challenges in the fiscal year 2026 budget. We're in appreciation of the careful diligence that has been performed in reducing the needed amount of free cash in this article. The discussion of this article has also and will continue to lead to greater work throughout the remainder of the year between the advisory board and the town in the processes used to manage free cash as a fiscal tool in our town's finances. Thank you.
Okay. So this is going to be a majority vote. As I said before, we're going to do what we typically do with budget articles. I'm going to read briefly each line. I'm not going to get into detail on it. I'm just going to line 1, jetty repair. If anybody has a question about that particular line item, you can shout out. You're allowed to do that from your seat. You don't have to get to a microphone. Just say there's a question, and then we'll collect all those questioned articles. We'll talk about them after we get through all the ones that aren't questioned. So, Article 1, jetty repair. Article 2, the COA Wi-Fi system. Article 3, opioid settlement previously commingled with general fund. Article 4, waterways excise. Article 5, PEG access. Article 6, vaccine deficit flu shot coded to COVID. Article 7, Munis software. Article 8, police accreditation. Article 9, school transportation. Article 10, school Medicaid. Article 11, school Chromebooks. Article 12, school classroom technology. Article 13, OPEB. Article 14, harbor park maintenance. Article 15, security camera server replacement. And I'm asking these ones even if we change them to 0, just to make sure there wasn't a question on that. Article 16, library Sunday hours. Article 17, library grant match bathrooms. Article 18, vehicle lease program. Article 19, school funding not on recap. Article 20, IT hardware lease. Article 21, fire overtime. Article 22, Uncle Bud Skate Park, Phase 2. Article 23, fire station apparatus floor. Pardon me? On 22, okay. 23, fire station apparatus floor. 24, fire station bathroom reno. 25, reserves. Question. And Article 26, IT hardware replacement. All right, so we've got 2 questioned articles. I'm going to vote on the rest of the articles. Again, majority vote. All those in favor of the other articles, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that 24 of those articles pass. So we're on to Article 22, which is the Uncle Bud Skate Park Phase 2.
Tina Shea, Cariswell Street. I see that there's a line item for maintenance for Harbor Park. Does Uncle Bud's 21 $20,000 include any maintenance? Because the place is a disaster.
Anybody from Uncle Bud's that can talk?
The $21,000 is to complete Phase 2, which opened on Monday. It does not include any maintenance fees.
Okay. Who maintains that? Where does the maintenance come from?
Well, through a public-private partnership, the 501c3 does a lot of maintenance. In fact, I was down there all day on Monday removing graffiti, and my wife was down there picking up trash. Also, the DPW has been very good about it. And I'm surprised to hear you say it's a mess. I mean, the grass is long. We're going to look at a meadow approach to it, as opposed to cutting it all the time. But the grass is long because it's been closed for 8 weeks.
Okay, but there was trash everywhere. Like you said, your wife was picking it up. So I was
Yeah.
just curious on who was responsible for it.
It's an extremely, extremely popular site, and we can expect that people are going to put trash and overrun the barrels, and we're taking care of it as best we can.
Okay, thanks. So who is
Okay.
responsible for it? DPW?
It's-
Or
DPW.
is it private?
It's a
Because we could
public-
do
it's-
like fundraising, we could do like meet at the park and clean up. I mean, I'm looking for a solution.
That's beyond the scope of this article, but I get where you're coming from. Chris, you can talk to Chris separately, and that would be a great thing to do.
Thanks.
Reserves.
Pam Keith, Smoke Hill Ridge. On reserves, in the advisory board meeting, Mr. Strobel said that this was due to a budget shortfall, or multiple budget shortfall line items, I guess. I'm wondering, with it being near the end of the fiscal year, do we have an update on what $900,000 might be going towards?
Mr. Strobel?
Yes, so currently the projected shortfalls fall into the following departments: the Board of Selectmen salaries, legal expenses, human resource salaries, IT expenses, election salaries, election expenses, weights and measures, animal control expenses, snow and ice, maintenance expense for DPW, accountant salaries, assessor expense, facility salaries, utilities, fuel, CTG salaries, and insurance.
So we were off $900,000 of the budget last year. We're overspending this year by that much?
Some of these expenses can't be anticipated. The budget is a best guess, so those are projections based off prior year or histories. And currently, with the actual expenses that are coming in, it's due to either supply chain issues or unanticipated expenses that have come up over the course of the fiscal year. That's what's driving some of these deficits.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how we have shortfalls when we normally have millions of dollars of free cash every year. It doesn't make sense to me, because as far as I know, I haven't taken a real close look at it in the past maybe few years, but when you look at the annual report, you normally see that accounts are closed and there's some excess. It might be small, but departments have a little bit left over, so I'm just surprised that there's $900,000 that we need to plug with free cash. Can I ask, what is the process for spending something from reserves? I thought that the advisory board or finance committee has to approve those transactions when you transfer over. Is that how that works?
We just had a discussion about that at the beginning of the meeting. The select board can move to take funds out of the reserves, but the advisory board needs to approve it.
Okay, so it would be like in a public meeting, the select board would have it
Yes.
say on an agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. Tipped. I want to know if Mr. Moderator, if the treasurer has a breakdown. Did he get a breakdown in paper with all the numbers for these multiple, I don't know how to put it, forecast or foreseen shortfalls? If you got input from each one of these departments,
Mr. Strobel?
did it come in the form of a dollar amount?
We do have dollar amounts. I'd be more than happy to post it on the town's website for everyone to take a look at.
When?
We can do that tomorrow.
Okay. Could I pick up a copy?
Absolutely.
Okay. Like, for example, what's the extra expenses related to elections? Do you have any idea offhand? Do you have it in front of you?
The current deficit or projected deficit is $41,178.
Based on what? Is there an extra election coming up in this next fiscal year that we?
Yeah, we can have the conversations all go through me, please.
I'm sorry, I understand.
Ms. Casper, do you have any information on why there's a shortfall in anything different on the elections, or did it just cost more? That we're not budgeted for enough?
I can't hear what she's saying.
She said there were 5 elections last year, and the budget didn't cover them. They need to be budgeted.
But we're
better.
Voting on next year. Okay. Again, there's just no explanation. We just see you're asking for increases on this, and the other thing, and it's just no explanation, no justification. We can't keep going on like that. It's impossible. So again, how can you vote for something like this?
Okay. Seeing no further discussion on Article 6, we have the 2 questioned articles. So first we're talking about Article 22, which is the Uncle Bud Skate Park article. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that that passes. And Article 25, the Reserve Fund. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that that passes as well. So we'll call one vote on Article 6 of the special town meeting. All those in favor in Article 6, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that Article 6 passes. So we are adjourning the special town meeting and going into the annual town meeting. Article 2, the Select Board moves that the town vote to establish the salaries and compensation of elected town officers as set forth in Article 2 of the April 28, 2025 annual town meeting warrants. Mr. Moran.
This is a standard, basically boilerplate article that allows the salaries and compensation of elected town officers to be paid as part of the annual budget.
Okay. Mr. Smith from the Advisory Board.
Article 2 maintains is in keeping with the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2026 budget, and the advisory board is in support as proposed.
Okay. So this again is a majority vote. I'm going to go to discussion from the floor. Rear microphone.
Eric Kelly, Peterson Path. I do have concerns in regards to the town clerk's salary. Though it requires further review of the law, it appears that where she's set at an $83,000 salary right now, but if you look on page 3 under town clerk at the top, she's getting increases. And I do have concerns that I believe at the advisory select board meeting that Mike said there were stipends. And like I said, there has to be more review in regards to what the law is, but to what I saw, stipends weren't allowed. So I don't know how we should go about this in regards to probably the whole line item there in regards to the increases, but I do have concerns. I will be public on saying that we should not increase it this year until this is, in my opinion, remedied, in my opinion.
Okay. Town clerk says she has not had an increase in 5 years. And according to town council, all we're doing is setting the number for the salary. It's not appropriating the money.
So say that again?
I haven't even had a cost of living in the last 5 years, but nice try.
Yeah, but
Okay,
all you do
that's-
is ask for it.
Okay, stop,
You're-
stop. We're not going to get into a back and forth from the front to the back, okay? It goes through me. What Mr. Galvin had said was, what this does is it sets the salary, it doesn't appropriate the money for the salary, that comes in the budget. So what we're saying is we're setting the salary for all of the elected positions here, and then it needs to be actually appropriated in the town meeting budget. I don't know if that's a better place to put your question or not, but I also don't know, you want to make any comment about this from the legality standpoint of things? Okay.
So should I wait to comment on the Article 3, vote on Article 2, and then move to Article 3? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
All right.
Hi, Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. The list of salaries for the various boards, Select Board Assessors, Public Works, Planning, Board of Health, what were those salaries, or I mean stipends last year? I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to look them up, but thought.
I don't think they change.
Okay, I'd like to propose an amendment, 2% increase for Select Board, Assessors, Public Works, Planning Board, and Board of Health, so that the final amount for those numbers would be an additional $237.28 for each of those board stipends. I'm not proposing an increase in the town clerk or the moderator salary and
Thanks a lot.
stipend. But if you want, I'll throw you in at $6.
No, it's fine. I got a big pay increase a couple of years ago. I tripled my money, so.
That's right.
I went from 92 to $300. That was a big jump.
Well, that's right, you did get that, like the clerk got a big increase in the base salary too, not long ago. So that's my amendment, a 2% increase for the board members, and just a little commentary on my amendment.
Well, let's make the amendment first, then you can make your
Okay, the
comment.
amendment is to increase by 2%, Select Board, Assessor, Public Works, Planning Board, Board of Health members' stipends, an increase of $237.28 total impact to that article.
Okay. We'll have to figure out, okay. The point was made that if this passes, we need to make sure we include that in the budget article. So we have to appropriate the money. You're setting the salary, then we have to appropriate the money. We just want to make sure we go through the whole thing. So we have an amendment on the floor. Conversation on the amendment. Mr. Pasevich.
I'm a board member. I get 0 for what I do. But I do know that other board members, including myself, we do have expenses. I mean, there are extra expenses that we incur all the time. These stipends are generally way too low. And as the demand says, the acting town administrator noted, we have a large town. It's very complicated, a lot of work to be done, and a lot of expenses. I know from talking to other board members, and it's not, and that there are a lot of expenses, just incredible amount of expenses that we incur for gasoline, for time, babysitters, all that kind of stuff. I think it would be a good trend to set let's be sensitive to what these people are doing. I'm just not speaking for myself, I'm not patting myself on the back, but people who volunteer and step up to run for these spots, they deserve something.
Yep. Okay. Further discussion of the amendment? Seeing none, I'll go to a vote. This will be a majority vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? I'll declare that passes. So we need to make sure that when we go back to the budget, that we are appropriating that money. Any further discussion on Article 2? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of Article 2, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that Article 2 passes. Article 3, the advisory board moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $1,132,944,800 let me do that again. $132,944,832 to defray the charges, expenses, and salary obligations of the town, including, without limitation, debt and interest, wages, salaries, reserve funds, and expenses for the operations of the town's departments and offices in the manner set forth in Article 3 of the April 28, 2025, and the June 2nd, 2025 continuation annual town meeting warrant on pages 2 through 7 for the fiscal year 2026, beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending on June 30th, 2026. And to meet said appropriation, raise and appropriate the sum of $116,909,959 and transfer the sum of $1,807,276 for a total of $118,717,235. And the rest, should we do the rest of that as well? Does it need to go in? Okay. $118,717,235 for the general fund. Raise the sum of $115,161,571 from the FY26 tax levy and other receipts. Transfer the sum of $1,807,276 from other available fund sources as follows. $736,276 from free cash left over, transfer from articles, $21,000 from community impact fee, $30,000 from waterways improvement fund, $30,000 from wetland protection fund, $11,000 from licensing and keeping of dogs, $170,000 from recreation revolving, $60,000 from cemetery perpetual care, and $750,000 from solar. Transfer for indirect costs, the sum of $1,748,388 as follows. $625,929 from the wastewater enterprise fund user charges, $773,929 from water enterprise fund user charges, $348,530 from water enterprise, solid waste enterprise user charges, wastewater enterprise fund to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,526,715 for wastewater direct costs. Water enterprise fund to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,451,714 for water direct costs. Solid waste enterprise fund to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,249,164 for solid waste direct costs. So that's the budget, the breakdown for the budget. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I want to thank the Select Board, the Advisory Board, the School Department, the Department of Public Works, and every volunteer and department head that I have had the privilege of working with in this short time, and most of all, you, the residents of Marshfield, for your courtesy and your patience that you have extended me during my time as your interim town administrator. When we met back in April, you had a budget before you that had been crafted after months of work by the elected officials, volunteers, and employees of the town. That budget articulates the town's priorities and values. However, in the manner in which those priorities were going to be paid for prompted concerns, namely the funding of the VOCTEC budget. This evening, you have before you a plan that responsibly addresses those concerns. The FY26 budget in Article 3 provides reliable funding for all the functions of government and education. The funding of the South Shore Vocational Technical School assessments is provided by the reallocation of free cash from 7 proposed uses in special town meeting Article 6. The only other changes being recommended are reductions in the annual town meeting Article 3 in the town administrator's salary line, reduced by $16,000, and the general insurance fund budget line item by $20,000. The $16,000 can be reduced because you've got me. And you've got me at a cheaper price for a portion of the fiscal year than you would pay for a full-time town administrator. Therefore, you're going to realize a lower draw on your salary amount, so you can lower that amount. The general insurance reduction is due to a rebate that the town received from its insurer for participation in training programs and for their rate experience. The combination of this and $4,000 in Article 6 will allow for a recommended $40,000 funding of the unemployment budget. The remaining articles before you, excuse me, I'll be respectful of your time. I'm pleased that the proposed amendments to these budgets have the unanimous approval of both the Select Board and the Advisory Board. The total budget being requested for additional funding of the VOC-TEC budget, including the additional funding of the VOC-TEC budget, is $120,851,152. This represents an increase of approximately 4.7% over the prior fiscal year. Drivers of this increase include a 10% increase in pension assessments, an increase in general government due to the proposed new position for the procurement position, and the addition of one new position, the assumption of a cost of another position, and the cost of financial software. The budget funds an anticipated 2% COLA. It allows for a 3.4% increase of the budget for the school department, and based on my experience over 4 decades in municipal government and in working on budget preparation in 3 other communities over the past year, I believe this budget's responsible and affordable. I hope I have presented it to you accurately. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. I'll try to answer any questions you may have, and if I can't answer them, I'll try to find someone else who can. Again, thank you again for your patience and your courtesy in dealing with me, and I hope that you will act favorably on this proposed budget.
Okay, at this point in time, I'll call Superintendent Sullivan to present for the schools. No presentation? Okay. Mr. Smith from the Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As many of you know, the Advisory Board spent more than 2 months reviewing the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. In both detailed discussions with department heads, the prior town administrator, and other town officials, including our new interim town administrator. We spent a lot of late nights, and we went through a lot of detail with schools, with fire, police, the Department of Public Works, and others. There was substantial time spent on this, and most of these meetings were conducted publicly to ensure full transparency of the discourse that took place around our review. We also have made a series of recommendations to the Select Board for improvements in the process. With all that being said, there is unanimous support for the budget from the Advisory Board, and it is as it is proposed here. And we do look forward to working with the Select Board and the interim town administrator in improving the process to ensure transparency and, most importantly, accountability. Thank you.
Okay. So this is going to be a majority vote. When we get to the time of voting, I'm going to go through the same process we did previously, where I will call out line items. If there's a question, you can let me know there's a question. At the end of that run, we will vote on all of the unquestioned items, and then we'll go back and dig deeper into the questioned ones. Ms. Sullivan, do you have any preliminary points?
I have a question.
Sure.
In the last article, we voted a 2% raise to certain elected officials.
Yep.
So I believe this article needs to go up by that amount.
It's going to need to be amended at the end.
And then the sources also.
We're not going to be sure. We just talked about that, Town Council and I. I think what we'll do is we'll leave that to the discretion of the treasurer, because we're not sure where that should go. It's $240.
$237 or something.
Joe's got the real numbers.
Yep.
think it's 23708 or 28. 23728, so it's a de minimis number. And what we'll do at the end is we'll get through all this other stuff, we'll amend the article to add the 23728, and we'll leave it up to the town treasurer to decide where's the best place to take that money from.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go down the list. Again, just question if you've got a question on something. Department is general government, the moderator, select board, accounting, assessors, treasurer collector, legal court judgments, human resources, MISIT. Town clerk, question. Election, town and meeting, conservation, planning board, zoning board of appeals, public safety, police department, fire department, building department, sealer of weights, animal control, harbor master, education, schools, question on schools, DPW, DPW administration, DPW engineering, highway, maintenance, cemetery greens and trees, fuel, Health and Human Services, Board of Health, Animal Inspector, Council on Aging, Veteran Services, Culture and Recreation, Library, Recreation, Veterans Memorials, Historical Commission, Clam Flats. Fixed costs, Reserve Fund, Facilities, Snow Removal, General Insurance, Retirement, Health and Life Insurance, Unemployment Comp, Medicare, Audit OPEB Payroll, Debt, Assessment, Unclassified, Utilities. ATM appropriation, town meeting annual reports, Cliff Rogers Free Library, Grad Night Live, South Coastal Counties Legal Services, North River Wildlife Rehab, Arc of South Shore, Marshfield COA Boosters, paid out of Selectmen's Services, overlay. So that's the total of all of our articles. So let's vote on those articles that were not questioned. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? I declare that that passes. Okay. So we need to, we're setting the overlay number now, so we're going to have an amendment to remove overlay from what we just appropriated. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to make an amendment. The town treasurer said the overlay is still being set. So all those in favor of removing the overlay from the budget, please raise your hand. All those opposed? So we have an approved amended budget. So we're going back to our two questions, the first of which was on town clerk.
So my concern is that according to Article 2, the town clerk's salary is set at $83,000. But we have a different line item in Article 3. We have an FY24 actual, $83,000. FY25 appropriation, $89,474. We have an FY 2026 request, $96,952. The town administrator recommends that. The advisory board recommends that. Now, my concern is that according, like I said, it has to be reviewed more, is that the law does not, I guess you could look at frowns upon stipends. It should be based on what the town approved, like we did in Article 2. $83,000. If Nerese wants a raise, the way I'm reading the law, she should ask for it through Article 2. So according to what I found out in regards to the Mass General Laws from ChatGPT, Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 108, giving town meeting the power to fix compensation for town officers and employees, attempting to circumvent that process by padding stipends, bonuses, or additional non-salary compensation could violate municipal finance laws and trigger scrutiny by the DOR or ethics. So what I want to ask is, does town council agree with that?
If there's something unlawful in what was being proposed as a stipend, I would agree with that. But to my knowledge, there is nothing that is paid as a stipend that I'm aware of that in any way violates state law or our general bylaws.
Well, according to the advisory board, select board meeting, when our former town administrator was there, and I believe a resident asked about the town clerk's increase in Article 3, our former town administrator said it was a stipend because of her work doing the FOIAs.
My understanding is that the town clerk is the person that the town has designated to be chiefly responsible for responding to all public records requests, and is designated the records access officer for the town, or the overall records access officer, and she may receive additional compensation for that purpose. And if that is why she's being paid, there's nothing illegal or unethical about it.
So what law would that fall under in regards to her being compensated for records officer?
Well, public records laws have significantly changed. The burdens on the town have increased by a multitude of 1,000. And Norris, I believe, is responsible for administering the online system, managing the responses, and making sure the responses are given in a timely fashion. And as someone that assists her from time to time in responding to certain public records requests, it can become a full-time job.
Okay.
And she gets a small stipend for that. I don't think it's illegal or unethical for her to be paid that.
So what law would that fall under then?
It's a stipend that the town has agreed to pay her in exchange for her assumption of that designation and responsibility. Doesn't fall within the traditional ambit of a town clerk.
So in regards to her being paid a stipend for the additional work, and to what I saw in regards to reading the law plus what I was given here, the only thing I saw in there in regards to her receiving a stipend for anything, I think, was being certified, I think, as being a town clerk or going to classes for it. And I think there was one other thing, and I think they both were $1,000 each. And I didn't see anything in there in regards to being compensated for any extra work. So
I'll let him answer that. You're out of time, so that's your last question.
all right, that's fine. I just want this on the record.
I'm not sure I understand all of the stipends that she receives. Should know it better than I do, but if one of those stipends is because she's the records access officer for the town of Marshfield, that is not unethical or illegal to pay her for that.
All right, thank you.
Rear microphone.
Jacob Qualter, Oakleaf Drive. This is questions directed to the school department.
We're still talking about the town clerk.
Oh, no, nothing to do with
No, we're talking about the town clerk. You can get to the school department in a second, once we finish this question. Town clerk? Martine, town clerk?
Yes, I'm Martine Anderson, Weathervane Lane. I can't believe that we're sitting here considering that our town clerk is given a stipend for all that she does. Whatever you're going to call it, she is a person who has earned, as far as I'm concerned, every dime we've ever paid her. She's wonderful in all of the talents that she brings to the office, and there are many, most of which, as far as I'm concerned, are elections. And the idea that you pay somebody a stipend to be so responsible for such a serious thing as the elections and all of the records that are kept. And also, her office is very easily accessible. She has people working there that are willing to help you out at every moment. So I think it seems to be sort of demeaning to our town clerk. She's a wonderful person who works for our town, and she is called the town clerk, and I'm proud to have her as our town clerk, Nerese Casper.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to vote on the town clerk article. All those in favor of the town clerk salary, please raise your hand. All those opposed, I declare that that passes. And then question on schools.
Yep, Jacob Qualter, Oakleaf Drive. Just a question here. Curious how a department can be asking for $60 million and there's no presentation to back that up.
The school committee gets their allotment, and that's, I don't know, I can't speak for the school committee, but that's, school committee gets a line item, you know, a single source budget, and that's what they've got, so. Want to get up?
Yeah, I just, to make it clear, typically there's a presentation for the whole town budget, and the school has a couple of slides. This is my first go-around as superintendent, that's what I was told. So as there wasn't going to be a formal slideshow presentation, we didn't have a presentation prepared. Glad to answer any questions you might have specifically about the budget, though.
No, I just think that the whole reason we're here tonight and this whole, why any of these discussions weren't done in April is because people weren't prepared to talk about things, and this is just spilling over of people not being prepared to have a presentation. But thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Duly
Further
noted.
discussion at the back.
Pam Keith, Smoke Hill Ridge. I agree that I didn't see the usual presentation that we normally have on the budget, and I expected it. I need to ask someone from the schools about savings that were supposed to occur back in January. There was talk of, number one, you know, there's normally attrition that wasn't included in the budget numbers. There may be unfilled positions, and there were special ed savings that maybe was going to occur. The special ed savings was $600,000. So I'd like to know if those savings have materialized or are planned to be materialized.
Tom Miller, excuse me, Tom Miller, 89 Ames Way, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance for the schools. As the speaker pointed out, the school budget is a very complicated process. Our work year really doesn't line up with the July work year. We are constantly refining the school budget throughout the summer, all the way till we open up in September. I'd like to point out, as the speaker said, we are utilizing retirements and vacancies and not filling them in order to reduce and meet our numbers that we have negotiated with the town. Just in these past 2 years, in fiscal '25, this school year, we reduced just under 9 positions, a cost of over $700,000. And just in the planning of this budget cycle for next school year, we're up to just under 10 FTE, 10 full-time equivalent positions, and the dollar value of that is a little bit more than $700,000 as well. So we're working with the municipal side with our allocation and providing the best education for our students that we possibly can with those funds.
Okay.
So with 10 unfilled positions, that's a saving of $700,000. And the special ed costs, do I assume that they are going to materialize and might be in the ballpark of $600,000?
Mr. Miller, can you answer that?
Mr. Moderator, I'm not familiar with the special ed savings. Our special ed costs actually are one of our biggest factors in increasing costs.
Mr. Miller mentioned them on January 7th in a public meeting, which was filmed. He mentioned that there would be less students attending out of district, and it might be a $600,000 savings.
Mr. Moderator?
Yep.
Yes, that's one tiny component of our special education. We have out-of-district students, just as the vocational students that we have as well. There's a number of out-of-district students that we pay a significant amount of money for. The potential was there. We're still refining those numbers, though that enrollment changes
Okay.
on a monthly basis.
Well, my point is that there are savings of 1.3 million. Granted, there are other things that go up, but we're comparing some major costs from this year we're in now to next year, saving 1.3 million, yet giving the schools $2 million more, going from 57.7 to 59.7 or 59.6 with the Norfolk Aggie taken out. That's a very large increase. It's too large, okay? I don't know what's going on, but it's too large. We're looking at huge costs for social tech students coming up, and we're not saving money now when we should.
Further discussion from the back? Mr. Lynch?
Steve Lynch, 50 Central Street. So I would like to make a motion to reduce the school budget to $58,933,396. So that's a reduction of $500,000, which is more than reasonable considering how much of an increase they have got. Now, I know that this motion is not going to become anywhere close to passing, but this is going to start the conversation that we need to have about $4 million in the next 4 years. We're going to have an increased cost of South Shore VOTEC, and we don't want an override for this. So the school is going to have to start tightening up their budget. If we have an increase of taxes of 2.5% by law, and then some new growth, they need to work within that kind of budget. So over the last, well, I have some questions for him. So can you just
Okay.
stop the clock and have him come
So
back?
you've got, there's an amendment on the floor to lower the school budget to $58,933,396. So it's a $500,000 deduction. Usually if we're making adjustments, it wants to be within 10% of the original amount. That falls within that amount, so it's an acceptable amendment. So we'll have discussion on the amendment. Mr. Lynch, you presented. You can have that discussion unless you don't need any more discussion on that.
I'd like to ask some more questions.
On the amendment? We're talking about the amendment.
My reasoning for the amendment, I would like to ask some questions on it, yes.
Okay. We'll ask the question and we'll get
School
somebody to
department.
answer. Ask the question and we'll get somebody to answer it for you.
So is it true that in the last 14 years that we have had 1,100 less students in the Marshfield school system?
Can somebody answer that?
Yeah, roughly. I don't have I could find it, but you're close.
And is it also true that in the 4 years of our full enrollment at South Shore VOTEC, we could be losing another 160 students to South Shore VOTEC?
It's
Mr.
conjectural.
Sullivan, have it go through me, just.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So
Sorry. No.
please answer, but
Yeah,
have it go
Mr.
through me.
Lynch, Moderator, Mr. Moderator, that's conjectural, but it's possible.
Okay.
What is this student-to-teacher ratio right now?
In schools?
Marshfield schools, yes.
Yeah, it's, again, I can look and get the exact numbers, but it's about 12 to 1.
12 to 1. When I was going to grade school, it was 30 to 1 with no aides.
But it's, yeah, I don't want to interrupt, but.
Go through me.
So what is the percentage of increase of your budget from last year if you include the free cash we're giving you, attrition of the teachers that aren't coming back, and the $2 million increase in your overall budget from the general fund? What does that percentage come out to?
It's 4.52, right?
Our budget presentation, our initial budget voted by the school committee was 5.37%. That included a few items, additional items that were removed from the table. Our level service budget, the same amount of services provided this school year that we would provide next year, was 4.76%. When you include the $631,634 in free cash that was allocated in Article 6 of the special town meeting that we just concluded, our percentage increase is 4.57%. Again, that's roughly what the total town budget increased. So we're doing the best with what is provided.
Well, I submit to you that you should be working on 2.5% plus some new growth. And we can't rely on the amount of revenue that you say that the overall levy got every single year. And we're going to have almost a $4 million cost to this town once we have full enrollment at South Shore Votech. So you guys are going to have to get with the program. It's unsustainable for your growth to keep going like this. I understand you have fixed costs, that it can't be dollar for dollar reduction for the loss of students that you have. I understand that, but it has to be something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on the amendment?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sean Costello, 229 Winslow Street. I'm also the chair of the school committee. I just have a couple points of clarification to make. First of all, the superintendent, I believe, is correct when it comes to the overall staff to student ratio being around 12-1, but that's not our classroom size. I just want folks to know our classroom size is more like 20-1 at the elementary level. I just want to make sure folks know that. I also want to make sure folks know that over the last 8 years, the average school budget increase has been 2.91%. This year it has a little bit of a higher number because of all the rising costs, everything, and also it takes some time to catch up when you're having an increase that is lower than the town side increase and lower than, quite frankly, most other towns in the area. I want to make sure folks know that in all 317 public school districts in Massachusetts, Marshfield is in the bottom 25% in how well we fund our public schools, but we're consistently in the top 35 to 40% in how we perform. And that's thanks to our educators, but it's also thanks to the town stepping up and making sure that when we have an issue like this, when we say that we're asking for a higher increase than we typically have, the town takes that seriously and recognizes that we wouldn't be doing that if we didn't absolutely have to do that. There's so many factors that go into cultivating a school budget. I know Mr. Greer is going to speak a little more to that as well. But this increase is for a reason. There's so many rising costs. Special education transportation alone is killing districts everywhere. But I want to make sure folks know Marshfield consistently overperforms, and we're asking folks now that we need this this year to ensure that we're providing the best possible education for our students. Thank you.
Good. Please. Mr. Greer.
Yeah, Rich Greer, School Committee. There's not much more I can add to what Mr. Costello said, other than it was mentioned before, it's not a one-to-one, right? Just because we lose students, we still have a cost per student, which is going to increase because we have to maintain that overhead. We're 132 out of 154 in terms of spending in the state, right? And there's not much we can do about it. And to Mr. Costello's point, we need this money in order to provide the education that we do to these students. We've maintained an expense budget for the schools over the past 15 years plus that averages about 7.9 million, right? And we've cut where we can cut. We're at bare bones right now. Meanwhile, we've expanded the offerings to the students. We've expanded other programs. So we're doing as best we can within the budget. And through attrition, we're able to make up some of this, as Mr. Miller had said earlier. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Victoria McDonough, Arleta Street. I just wanted to make a comment. And I realize that it's different budgets and it's coming out of different pockets in the town, but we need to think a little bit about our priorities. At the last meeting, we approved $1.2 or $1.3 million to improve ball fields. Now, I understand that we had drainage problems, which could be dangerous and unhealthful, but we also, put in nice batting cages and dugouts and nice-to-haves. We're talking about the education of our children here. So let's think about the priorities that we have as a community. Thank you very much.
Okay. Rear microphone. Again, please.
Martin Cleary, 38 Ellis Avenue, Wrexham. Ladies and gentlemen, I was very inquisitive about the ratio, which I'm happy about. I was looking for that 25-to-1 on per capita to student to the teacher, but I was pleased with that remark. I'm asking if you could put a study. What I see is going to be an exodus towards that South Shore vocational next year, and I imagine the numbers are coming out now. We have a sheet metal shop in Marshfield High. Would you entertain the prospect of looking at more than the sheet metal shop? A mechanical shop, you do have a carpentry shop. You could get into your welding, you can get into pipe fitting, you can get into your lathes again. I think it would be very, very wise, because this is going to be a wave to the future that's coming up. We're going back, believe it or not, to the 50s and the 60s, because there's an exodus going on, and it's going right out of a town or somewhere else. I think we would be entertaining to look at that aspect and get a little more shops now in this school to advance our kids to get further with a better salary. We have a lot of things that are happening off the coast, your electrical and mechanical. I think that'd be a terrific thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rear microphone.
Eric Kelly, Peterson Path. The one big question that's been going around, especially with MBTA communities, is unfunded mandates. How much is the unfunded mandates cost in the schools right now?
So, Mr. Moderator, it's high and sort of uncalculable. There are many unfunded mandates that hit us, and we have to attend to that.
Mr. Kelly?
Do we have a number?
I do not have a number.
Can you get that number?
Yeah, actually, I'll have Assistant Superintendent Martin talk a little bit about our curriculum and the unfunded mandates. That might be clarifying.
All right, so Ellen Martin, the Assistant Superintendent of Schools, 56 Hidden Valley Road. There are quite a few things that have happened, I think, besides the decrease in enrollment. So, for example, we have a lot of grant funding, federal grants, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, IDEA grants. I know in my department, the Title I, II, III, and IV grants have received cuts. Just several years ago, we actually got a 50% reduction in Title I from $500,000 to $250,000. Those grants paid for some of our tutors in our classrooms. But with that reduction, we had to reduce some of those services. Other things that are happening, the Department of Ed is really pushing us to adopt high-quality instructional materials, which they have a list that they approve of program materials. And if you do not purchase materials from that list, you are subject to possible further grant reductions. So we have had to purchase new math programs for elementary and middle school. We had to purchase a new English program, reading program for the elementary. We've had to purchase a new science program for the middle school, some of which was covered by grants. I think Marshfield does a good job of trying to keep up with everything that's out there, but not everything is funded by those grants. We also have, as you know, there's an increase in our mental health needs here in our public school department, as well as in our communities. That has increased the need for mental health services in our schools, social workers, guidance, those types of positions. We also, as you know, Marshfield is increasing in their population diversity, and we have mandates that require certain staffing numbers, certain number of hours that our students need, so that all of those different things, even nursing with the increase in food allergies and things like that, we have had to make sure that we have appropriate nursing levels. All of those things have come into play. So even though you see the reduction in our student enrollment, our expectations have actually increased as far as how we need to service our students. So I hope that answers a few of those questions.
It was very informative, but it doesn't get to the number of how much it's costing us in unfunded mandates. But I do want to ask the assistant principal, superintendent, in regards to this diversity staffing, in regards to what kind of pressure they're under, like from who, and is it a law? Is it another mandate? Who's implementing this diversity staffing?
Mr. Moderator, I can answer that very quickly. Sean Costello, Chair of the School Committee. I am not the Assistant Superintendent, thank God for that. Would just very quickly like to say, obviously, over the last 10 years, our EL population in the schools has grown quite a bit. And I will just say that Marshfield Public Schools stand ready to educate any student that walks through our doors at any time, and we're going to make sure that we're fully staffed to do so. Thank you.
Please.
I'm glad for the applause, but doesn't answer my question in regards to diversity staffing. Is it a law? Is it a mandate? Is it a self-imposed thing on the school? What is this diversity staffing? I'm looking for the best staff, not judging on their race, color, or anything like that.
No, so our students who are English language learners go through assessments, and depending on where they fall on assessments, we are required to give them a certain number of hours of instruction by certified English language education staff. And so with that increase, we have had to increase that type of staffing. But that is, I would say that's no different than when we have to increase for our students with special needs or our students with 504 plans, my daughter being one of them. So to Mr. Costello's point, even if that mandate weren't in place, we still do what we need to do to meet the needs of every student that walks through our doors. So whether that's a mandate or not a mandate, we still need to do those services for our kids.
So it's a mandate from who?
The state.
The
The Department of Education.
It's not a law, it's a mandate.
Yes.
Okay. And then in regards to you talking about the grants, you're saying that it sounds the Department of Education is telling you that the schools are required to purchase certain items in order for you to get certain grants?
So what happens is, again, they have a list on their website. And we have been informed that if we do not purchase certain materials that are deemed highly qualified, then some of those grants we would not be able to even apply for. And some of those grants we have gotten us to the point where we can purchase those highly qualified or high quality instructional materials. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Are they high expensive too?
All program materials, like anything else in this world, have increased over the
Well, we know it's increased.
over years.
Are they forcing you to buy very expensive material versus something that may be equivalent, more cost-effective?
Well, yes, it is expensive, but it's also research-based, and the research shows that using high-quality instructional materials will get us much further for our kids we will have much more academic success with them. That's research-based.
I would say there's a question mark on it, but in regards to all these mandates and funding, you know, and the cost of living for everybody, and I understand that, but you know something, we keep sending people back into the State House, imposing these draconian rules and taxes on us. So we need to end that and make changes. Thank you.
I knew it was ending. Rear microphone.
Tina Shea, Careswell Street. It has, so the request is 60,700,000 plus, and that's included, or is the 630 from the special election additional?
That's the school budget. What we're talking right now is about the amendment, so we're not talking about the total number right now, but that budget is their operational budget.
Right, but does it include the money from the special meeting?
From the special town meeting?
Yes.
No, that's in addition to that money.
So in addition, and then there was $750,000 odd that Mr. Moran spoke about at the select board meeting. Is that included?
Again, well, right now, we're talking about the amendment. We're not going to talk about the
But don't
article.
you think it's important to see how much money is being appropriated before you reduce it?
But that's
by
the discussion
500?
we have after we go through the amendment. We need to do the amendment first, because you don't know what the final number is right now. We're discussing on the amendment. You can ask those questions once we get to the amended number. Ms. Pasevich on the amendment?
Yes. Do my ears deceive me, but did the, Ms. Martin say that the Mass Department of Education is forcing us to buy new programs and new reading materials or lose grants? Did I hear that correctly? Could I?
We're getting a little far afield on this amendment.
But it was part of, excuse me, but it was part of her response to it.
I'll let her respond to that, but really,
I get it.
to the point that I think we need to vote on this amendment.
I get it.
Go ahead.
So would they say they are forcing us? No, they would not say that. However, there are grants that are stipulated. If you purchase certain instructional materials, you may apply for grants. If you do not purchase certain instructional materials, there are grants that you cannot even apply for.
Are those grants related to the materials that you're either electing to
Some
buy?
are, and some are for other content areas.
Oh, thank you. That's just amazing that they would use that kind of leverage on you to force you to buy something else. Thank you.
Is this for the amendment, Barry? I would like to go to a vote on the amendment, because I think we've heard enough at this point, unless you've got something salient to say.
Please repeat the amendment.
The amendment was to lower the amount of this, exactly why we need to vote on it, was to lower the school department budget to $58,933,396.
Oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing. I have to say that on two fronts, the school would be second. We have an incredibly complicated financial arrangement in this town, and I'm sure it's typical for most towns. I hope that the town of Marshfield's fathers and mothers bring in the appropriate exterior experts to help us identify what our strengths are and what our needs are going forward. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I won't. I'm being accused of being verbose, so sorry about that. On the subject of the school budget, this, I think, is the first time I've heard this kind of discussion at an annual town meeting in the 40-some years I've been here. I would hope that these kinds of issues, which are all questions worth asking, are addressed in the appropriate forum, which to me is before the school committee as it's setting its budget. And so that the resolution, however it may turn out, is resolved when it comes to town meeting. Now, there are efficient ways of doing things. And then finally, on subjects like mandated reporting, equity in hiring, you name it, forced purchases, those are almost all political and legal questions, and they will be addressed, for better for worse, by the great and general court. It will not be resolved here in Marshfield at an annual town meeting, and this is the wrong forum for them.
Okay, Barry, you're out of time.
And I'm out of time.
Thank you.
Just getting warmed up, too.
That's why you're out of time. Mr. Pelletier.
Hi, Grayson Pelletier, 1050 Cariswell Street. I am a soon-to-be former student of Marshfield High School in 1 week, and I'd just like to give my input on lowering the requested amount is kind of a little outrageous in my opinion. As someone who has been in this school for 4 years, who's been in the other school for 4 years, who's been to Governor Winslow for 3 years, I can tell that these people do spectacular work, especially for me, someone who is in their special education program and someone who struggles a lot with a lot of the material. They have provided so much resources to the point where I can get to the point where I can walk up on that stage next week and get my diploma and go to college. These people have given me these resources to even do that, something I thought I would never be able to do. I just thought I was stupid and would just become a mechanic, and now I'm going for political science, which I've never thought I would even be interested in. And this point that this school has done so much for that, these people that have actually given me the resources to do whatever I want to do, to pursue my dreams into public service. My special education English teacher is one of my favorite people in the world, who has sat with me and read through like articles I've had for my clubs, and like, hey Grayson, I have some input on this. Let me help you with your grammar and a little more of that. And I was able to get through a lot of his, stuff. Sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I just think that everyone should consider that as the students of Marshfield High, we recommend you to not vote for this, as the school needs this funding to pursue their great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. All right, seeing no further discussion on the amendments. Again, the amendment is to lower the school budget to $58,933,396. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that the amendment fails. So do we still have any more discussion on the school budget?
Hi, Joe Pasevich, Wilson Road. I'm a little confused. On the errata sheet that we were given regarding ATM Article 3, there's a reference to South Shore Regional Voc Tech. Recommended update from blank to 750273. Are we going to see that somewhere at some point? In the motion?
It's in the motion, but we didn't add it as a line item.
It's supposed to be a line item, isn't it?
But the number is included, but the name is not. It's in there.
Where? Oh, and on another sheet? I'm just
Appendix
looking
B.
at the errata sheet. Appendix B. Operating budget, let's see. Oh, I see, over here, South Shore, okay, Appendix B, page 2 of 2, 750. Thank you. I think I see it now, Mr. Moderator.
Okay.
The second part of the question is, and I know you might think it's skipping ahead, but why on the errata sheet under ATM Article 4, I know you think I'm skipping ahead, but I'm really not. It says ATM Article 4, there's also an apparent amendment for the exact same amount under Article 4, where it says Appendix B, under column expenses. This is page 3 of the errata sheet. It says, under column expenses, school department update, insert line South Shore Voc Tech, add 750273. So why is that listed under ATM Article 4, and the same amount is listed as add?
Mrs. Strobel, can you address that?
So I'm looking at the errata
Can't
sheet.
hear you.
I'm looking at the errata sheet for Article 4, and I do not see where it says South Shore Regional VOTEC. Under Appendix B, which is on page 3, that is where you're seeing South Shore Regional VOTEC, because that is addressing the change in Appendix B, which is in the back of the printed warrant. So not only do we have to change the actual article, which is Article 3, to insert not only South Shore Regional VOTEC as well as Norfolk Aggie, we also had to also address the change to the printed warrant for Appendix B. That's why you're seeing it in two places.
But Mr. Murray, it's listed under ATM Article 4 as a change to Article 4, and Article 4 is not an operating expenses article. Article 4 is a capital outlay article, and so on the errata sheet, when it refers to the capital outlay article, I see add 750,000. And then it refers to Appendix B. You see the confusion?
Ms. Moran, can you address this?
Okay, again, under the errata sheet as listed under ATM Article 4, Police Department removes the tasers. It changes the recommendation for Capital Budget Committee. It has an update on borrowing supported by taxes and expenditures. That's the end of page 2. That's the end of the annual town meeting Article 4. Flipping to the errata sheet to page 3. It's headlined Appendix B.
Oh, I see. So it's referring simply to B. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like it was a carryover.
It's not a carryover.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, you good? Okay, let's take a vote on the school budget. All those in favor of the school budget, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that the motion carries, or that the education budget carries. We have our one amendment that I will make to add, I move that we add $237.28 to the overall budget to cover the 2% increases for all those elected officials except for me. And there's one other one. Oh, the town clerk. So I want to make that motion, that we're going to add $237.28 to make us whole on the adding, the 2% add for the elected budgets. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? I declare that the amendment carries. So we're going to vote on an overall Article 3 budget for the town. All those in favor of Article 3, please raise your hand. All those opposed. I declare that Article 3 passes. We are on to Article 4. The Capital Budget Committee moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,912,000 to pay for the capital outlay set forth in the chart set forth in Article 4 of the April 28, 2025 annual town meeting warrant under the Capital Budget Committee recommendations column, and to meet said appropriation that the town authorize the treasurer collector with the approval of the select board to borrow the sum of $1,892,000 under the applicable provisions of Chapter 44 of the Massachusetts General Laws or any other enabling authority, and to issue notes and bonds relative thereto, and further that any premium received on the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of the issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such sum by a like amount, and further that the sum of $650,000 be transferred from wastewater enterprise retained earnings, the sum of $270,000 to be transferred from water enterprise retained earnings, and the sum of $100,000 to be transferred from solid waste enterprise retained earnings. Anyone from the Capital Budget Committee to present on this? No? Mr. Moore, do you have any comment?
No.
Okay. Advisory Board, Brian Crowley. Mr. Smith.
Article 4 addresses a litany of very real and very important capital needs for our Department of Public Works, Harbor Master, and other areas in town. After a lot of careful, considerable review and consideration of the Capital Budget Committee's review, Article 4 is supported by the Advisory Board as proposed.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be a two-thirds vote because it's got some borrowing involved with it. So our vote total is going to have to be two-thirds. I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to read each line. If there's a question, sing out. We'll vote on all the unquestioned ones and then vote on the questioned ones, or discuss the question ones. Council on Aging, Conservation, Police Department, Facilities Department, Library, Harbor Master, Information Technology, Schools, DPW Engineering, DPW Highway, DPW Cemetery Trees and Greens, DPW Solid Waste on cemetery greens. Is there a particular line item in there? We've got, pardon me? Okay, got it. DPW Solid Waste, DPW Water, DPW Wastewater. So the only one we have questioned is the DPW mower. So all those in favor, what? Oh, okay. All those in favor of the remaining articles for Article 4, please raise your hand again. This is a majority vote. All those opposed, I declare that passes by a majority, two-thirds majority. So the question mower, just to note, this was not funded. This is an unfunded piece of equipment. So you get to a microphone if you got a question.
Jim Murrin, Careswell Street. I just have a question on the amount and what actually is proposed here. I mean,
we're not buying it. The amount is, so it wasn't funded.
I understand, but still, there's a number next to a proposal. The proposal is about lawnmowers, and it's in the amount that's.
I can get you that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Martin, that mower is not going to be funded this year, and it is a mower that does all the school fields and cemeteries. We're going to keep using the one we have now.
I think the question was, why is it $210,000? I believe was the question.
That's what it costs today, unfortunately. Just one.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're going to go for a vote on the mower question. All those in favor of it's not a funded vote, but it was questioned, so I'm going to do it. All those in favor of the mower, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that passes by 2/3. And I'll take one final vote on Article 4. All those in favor of Article 4, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that Article 4 passes by a 2/3 majority. Article 7. Will the town vote to appropriate the sum of, I'm going to the wrong column, I'm reading the warrant and not the motion. The Select Board moves that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $475,000 to support PEG access services consistent with the cable franchise agreements during the fiscal year 2026, and transfer said sum to Marshfield Community Media Incorporated, and to meet this appropriation, transfer said sum from FY 2026 revenue under the cable franchise agreements. Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is the vote that is required annually to allow the cable access people to Marshfield Community Media Incorporated to access the funds that are raised through the cable subscribers. This is used to broadcast and stream the meetings that they and the community events that they cover.
Okay, thank you. Jan Martin from the Advisory Board.
The advisory board appreciates that these streaming services are a valuable community service, particularly since they're funded through the cable access, and we recommend approval of this appropriation.
Thank you. This is going to be a majority vote. Seeing no discussion from the floor, I'll go to a vote. All those in favor of Article 7, please raise your hand. All those opposed? I declare that Article 7 passes. And we have finally finished the April 28th town meeting. So thank you, everybody. I would like to get, I move that we adjourn. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the fall.